Never forget any wrong done to you, unless you wish to see it repeated. Miyamoto Musashi. Forgiveness is for the weak. They tell you it's good. They tell you it sets you free. They lie. Forgiveness is a tool. It's a tool they use to keep you down. It lets people walk all over you. It lets them take what's yours, and it makes you think it's a good thing. They want you to forgive, because when you forgive, you forget. When you forget, you become blind, blind to the game, blind to the players, blind to their moves. And blind men are easy to control. Forgiveness helps those who hurt you. It lifts the weight from them. It frees them to do it again. Why wouldn't they? You've already shown them there are no real costs. You've signaled that you're soft, a doormat, someone to be used, then discarded. The world is a harsh place. People want to take, they want to climb, and they don't care who they step on to get there. If you let them step on you, they will, every single time. Forgiveness is giving them permission. It's handing them the knife and asking them to stab you again. Think about those at the top, the powerful, the wealthy. Do they forgive? No, they remember. They hold grudges. They use those grudges. They turn them into fuel, fuel for their ambition, fuel to crush their enemies, fuel to protect what's theirs. They understand that the world isn't fair, that people will try to cheat you, steal from you, and hurt you. And they don't forgive them for it. They make them pay. Forgiveness is a way to avoid conflict. It's a way to keep the peace. But peace at what cost? The cost of your dreams, the cost of your future, the cost of your power. True power comes from strength. Strength comes from knowing who your enemies are and never forgetting what they did. Forgiveness is weakness disguised as virtue. It's a trap designed to keep you poor, powerless, and under control. Break free, embrace the darkness, remember the wrongs done to you, and use them to rise above. Do not forgive, conquer. Forgiveness is a self-inflicted wound, a psychological disarmament that leaves you vulnerable to future attacks. Consider the inherent asymmetry in the act. One party inflicts harm, the other absolves them. This creates an imbalance, a power dynamic, where the offender remains unchecked and the offended relinquishes their right to justice, to recompense, to prevent future transgressions. The very act of forgiving implies a position of moral superiority, a condescending act that subtly reinforces the hierarchy that allowed the initial harm to occur. It's a false elevation, a fleeting moment of self-righteousness that masks a deeper fear, the fear of confrontation, the fear of asserting one's own worth, the fear of disrupting the comfortable illusion of a harmonious world. The desire to forgive often stems from a deeply ingrained need for approval, a desperate yearning to be seen as good and kind. This need overrides the instinct for self-preservation, the primal urge to protect oneself from further harm. You prioritize the perception of others over your own well-being, sacrificing your power on the altar of social acceptance. This is a dangerous game, a constant striving to meet external expectations that leaves you perpetually drained and vulnerable. True strength lies not in seeking validation, but in defining your own values and adhering to them relentlessly, regardless of external pressures. The concept of forgiveness is often intertwined with religious or spiritual beliefs, promising inner peace and redemption. However, this pursuit of spiritual enlightenment can be a subtle form of escapism, a way to avoid confronting the harsh realities of the world. It's a passive approach to life, a reliance on external forces to resolve internal conflicts. True empowerment comes from taking responsibility for your own life, from actively shaping your destiny rather than passively accepting whatever comes your way. Forgiveness in this context becomes a convenient excuse for inaction, a way to justify your powerlessness. Examine the motivations behind the call for forgiveness. Who benefits most from this act of absolution? Often, it's the powerful, the privileged, those who have inflicted harm and seek to avoid the consequences of their actions. They preach forgiveness as a means of maintaining the status quo, of silencing dissent, of preventing rebellion. It's a tool of control, a subtle form of manipulation that keeps the masses compliant and subservient. The call for forgiveness is rarely a genuine expression of empathy. It's often a calculated strategy to preserve power. The act of forgiving can also be a form of self-deception, a way to rationalize your own inaction and avoid confronting your own feelings of anger and resentment. These emotions are not inherently negative. They are powerful motivators, fuels for change and self-improvement. Suppressing them through forgiveness is akin to building a dam. The pressure will eventually build until it bursts, often in destructive ways. Instead of denying these emotions, harness them, channel them into productive action. Use them to fuel your ambition, to drive you forward, to protect yourself from future harm. Consider the long-term consequences of forgiveness. Do you truly believe that forgiving someone will change their behavior, or does it simply embolden them to repeat their offenses? In many cases, forgiveness is interpreted as a sign of weakness, an invitation to exploit you further. The world is filled with individuals who are driven by self-interest, who will take advantage of any opportunity to advance their own agenda. Forgiving them will not make them kinder or more compassionate. It will simply make you a more attractive target. The alternative to forgiveness is not necessarily revenge. It's about holding people accountable for their actions. It's about setting clear boundaries and enforcing them ruthlessly. It's about protecting your interests and refusing to be exploited. This requires strength, courage, and a willingness to confront conflict. It's not always easy, but it's essential for maintaining your power and protecting your future. The pursuit of power is not inherently immoral. It's about having the ability to shape your own life, to control your own destiny, to protect yourself from harm. Forgiveness is a tool that can be used to undermine this pursuit, to weaken your resolve, to make you vulnerable to manipulation. Embrace the reality of the world, the inherent competition, the constant struggle for dominance. Do not forgive those who seek to harm you. Remember their actions, learn from their tactics, and use that knowledge to rise above them. In the ruthless world of business, acts of forgiveness are often strategically disastrous. Imagine a scenario: a promising tech startup is on the verge of a breakthrough. The CEO, driven by a misplaced sense of loyalty, overlooks repeated instances of insubordination and incompetence from a longtime friend and employee who holds a key engineering role. The employee's subpar performance starts subtly: missed deadlines, features that fail to function as advertised, and a growing backlog of unresolved bugs. Instead of addressing the issues decisively, the CEO, remembering years of shared history and favors owed, offers excuses, provides second chances, and shields the employee from criticism. The CEO keeps forgiving. The consequences cascade. Morale within the engineering team plummets as other, more dedicated employees become demoralized by the lack of accountability. They see their hard work undermined by the underperformer, and they feel the injustice of having their efforts judged against a lower standard. Innovation stagnates as the team's energy is diverted to damage control, fixing the errors of the favored employee instead of exploring new opportunities. The startup begins to lose ground to its competitors who are leaner, more efficient, and more ruthless in their pursuit of market share. Investors become nervous as the startup's performance metrics decline, and they start questioning the CEO's leadership. The CEO keeps forgiving. The situation reaches a critical point when a major client, frustrated by persistent technical problems, threatens to withdraw its business. The startup's reputation is at stake, and its very survival hangs in the balance. Even then, the CEO hesitates to take decisive action, still clinging to the idea of forgiveness. The CEO attempts to address the issue through gentle coaching and mentoring, hoping to inspire the employee to improve. But the damage has already been done. The employee, now accustomed to the CEO's leniency, continues to underperform, secure in the knowledge that they will not face serious consequences. The CEO keeps forgiving. Eventually, the startup collapses. The investors pull out, the employees are laid off, and the once promising technology is sold off for pennies on the dollar. The CEO, left with nothing but regrets, realizes the devastating cost of misplaced forgiveness. The loyalty extended to a non-performing employee ultimately destroyed the entire company, impacting the lives of everyone who worked there. The CEO learned far too late that in the ruthless world of business, forgiveness is often a luxury that cannot be afforded. The company is ruined. The opportunity is lost. This scenario is not merely a hypothetical exercise. It is a reflection of the harsh realities of the competitive landscape. In the pursuit of success, sentimentality has no place. Decisions must be made based on cold, calculated logic, not on personal feelings. Forgiveness in this context is not a virtue, it is a weakness. It is a self-inflicted wound that weakens your position and empowers your adversaries. The market demands results. The market rewards strength. The market punishes weakness. Remember this the next time you are tempted to forgive someone who has harmed you. Consider the long-term consequences. Weigh the potential benefits against the inevitable cost. Ask yourself if you can truly afford to forgive. The answer, more often than not, will be a resounding no. Forgiveness, when practiced indiscriminately, becomes a tool of self-sabotage. It allows those who have wronged you to escape accountability, perpetuating a cycle of exploitation and resentment. The inability to hold others responsible for their actions breeds a culture of impunity, where transgressions are minimized and justice is denied. Consider the employee who consistently misses deadlines, blaming external factors for their lack of productivity. Each time you forgive their tardiness, you reinforce their behavior, teaching them that their actions have no real consequences. They learn to manipulate your empathy, exploiting your willingness to forgive for their own personal gain. This dynamic creates a power imbalance where they are free to act with impunity, while you are left to bear the burden of their incompetence. Over time, this resentment will fester, poisoning your relationships and undermining your own sense of self-worth. You become trapped in a cycle of forgiveness and disappointment, constantly giving others second chances that they never deserve. The true cost of this misplaced compassion is the erosion of your own authority and the perpetuation of a system that rewards mediocrity and punishes excellence. You sacrifice your own well-being for the sake of maintaining a false sense of harmony, ultimately weakening your position and empowering those who seek to exploit you. Remember that every act of forgiveness is a choice, a conscious decision to absolve someone of their responsibility. Before you grant forgiveness, consider the long-term implications. Ask yourself if you are truly willing to accept the consequences of their actions and whether forgiveness will ultimately serve your best interests or simply enable further exploitation. The trap of forgiveness also extends to broader social and political contexts. Nations that readily forgive their enemies often find themselves vulnerable to future aggression. A society that tolerates injustice invites further oppression. The desire for peace and reconciliation should not come at the expense of accountability and justice. Consider the historical examples of appeasement, where nations attempted to appease aggressors by making concessions and overlooking their transgressions. These acts of forgiveness, born out of a desire to avoid conflict, ultimately emboldened the aggressors and led to even greater suffering. The lesson is clear: forgiveness without accountability is a dangerous path, one that leads to weakness and vulnerability. True strength lies not in the willingness to forgive, but in the ability to hold others accountable for their actions and to defend one's interests with unwavering resolve. This is not to advocate for endless cycles of revenge, but rather to emphasize the importance of justice as a deterrent to future transgressions. A society that values accountability sends a clear message that wrongdoing will not be tolerated and that those who violate the rules will be held responsible for their actions. This is the foundation of a just and stable society, one where individuals are incentivized to act with integrity and respect for the rights of others. Forgiveness should be reserved for those who genuinely repent and demonstrate a commitment to change, not for those who seek to exploit your compassion for their own selfish purposes. Furthermore, the act of forgiveness can be a form of self-deception. It allows you to avoid confronting the difficult truths about the people around you and the nature of the world. By forgiving someone who has wronged you, you may be subconsciously trying to convince yourself that they are fundamentally good despite their actions. This denial can be a defense mechanism, a way to protect yourself from the pain of accepting that you have been betrayed or manipulated. However, this self-deception ultimately weakens your judgment and makes you more vulnerable to future exploitation. You become blinded by your own desire to see the best in people, ignoring the warning signs that indicate their true intentions. This is especially dangerous in situations where you are dealing with individuals who are inherently dishonest or manipulative. They will exploit your willingness to forgive, using your compassion as a weapon against you. They will feign remorse, make empty promises, and play on your emotions in order to gain your trust and control. The more readily you forgive them, the more power they will wield over you, trapping you in a cycle of abuse and exploitation. The path to true strength lies in facing reality head-on, acknowledging the darkness that exists in the world, and refusing to be manipulated by false promises and empty gestures. Cultivate a healthy skepticism, question the motives of others, and be prepared to walk away from relationships that are toxic or exploitative. The illusion of moral superiority often fuels the impulse to forgive. Many believe that forgiving others makes them a better person, elevating them above those who harbor resentment or seek revenge. This belief is often rooted in religious or ethical teachings that emphasize the importance of compassion and forgiveness. However, the pursuit of moral superiority can be a dangerous trap, leading to self-righteousness and a distorted sense of reality. You may become so focused on proving your own virtue that you lose sight of the practical consequences of your actions. You may forgive someone who has wronged you, not because you genuinely believe they deserve it, but because you want to appear magnanimous and forgiving in the eyes of others. This is a form of self-aggrandizement, a way of using forgiveness to boost your own ego and social standing. The true test of moral character lies not in the act of forgiveness itself, but in the wisdom and discernment with which you choose to forgive. A truly virtuous person understands that forgiveness is not always the right answer, and that sometimes the most moral course of action is to hold others accountable for their transgressions. The pursuit of justice, the protection of the vulnerable, and the defense of one's own interests are all equally important aspects of a moral life. Do not let the desire to appear virtuous blind you to the realities of power and the importance of self-preservation. The pressure to conform to social expectations can also contribute to the trap of forgiveness. In many cultures, forgiveness is considered a virtue, and those who refuse to forgive are often viewed as bitter, vengeful, or unforgiving. This social pressure can make it difficult to assert your own boundaries and to demand accountability from those who have wronged you. You may fear being judged or ostracized if you refuse to forgive, leading you to suppress your own feelings and to compromise your own values. This is especially true in close-knit communities where maintaining harmony and avoiding conflict are highly valued. The fear of disrupting the social order can lead individuals to forgive transgressions that they would otherwise never tolerate. The key is to cultivate a strong sense of self-reliance and to resist the pressure to conform to social expectations that are detrimental to your own well-being. Surround yourself with individuals who support your values and who respect your right to make your own choices. Remember that true strength lies not in conforming to the expectations of others, but in living authentically and according to your own principles. Do not let the fear of judgment prevent you from asserting your boundaries and demanding the respect that you deserve. Finally, consider the strategic advantage of withholding forgiveness. The ability to hold a grudge, to remember wrongs, and to demand accountability can be a powerful tool in the pursuit of power and success. Those who are quick to forgive are often perceived as weak and easily manipulated. They are seen as lacking the resolve to defend their own interests and as being unwilling to take decisive action against those who have wronged them. In contrast, those who are known for their unforgiving nature are often treated with respect and deference. People are less likely to cross them or to take advantage of them, knowing that they will face swift and decisive consequences. This is not to advocate for a life of bitterness and resentment, but rather to recognize the strategic value of maintaining a reputation for toughness and resolve. The ability to withhold forgiveness can be a powerful deterrent, preventing others from exploiting your kindness and ensuring that they think twice before crossing you. Use forgiveness as a tool, a calculated strategy to achieve your goals, not as an automatic response or a sign of weakness. Reserve it for those who have truly earned it, and never let it be used against you as a means of manipulation or control. The path to power lies not in indiscriminate forgiveness, but in strategic discernment and unwavering resolve. The relentless pursuit of power demands a cold, calculating assessment of every interaction, every relationship, and every perceived transgression. Forgiveness in its traditional sense becomes a liability, a weakening agent in the arsenal of the aspiring sovereign. It is not about nurturing hate, but about maintaining a razor-sharp awareness of the debts owed and the scores that must be settled, if not through direct retribution, then through the subtle manipulation of influence and leverage. The capacity to forgive easily signals a lack of vigilance, an inability to discern genuine remorse from calculated manipulation. It suggests a porous boundary, easily breached by those seeking to exploit weakness and extract resources. The world is not populated by benevolent actors seeking mutual benefit. It is a theater of conflict where resources are finite and the ambitious are constantly vying for dominance. Forgiveness, readily offered, becomes an invitation for further exploitation, a tacit endorsement of unacceptable behavior. It erodes the foundations of respect and breeds contempt, signaling that your boundaries are negotiable and your principles malleable. Those who transgress against you will not interpret your forgiveness as a sign of magnanimity, but as evidence of your inability to defend your own interests. They will see you as a soft target, ripe for future exploitation, and they will be emboldened to test your limits further. The accumulation of wealth and influence requires a ruthless commitment to self-preservation, a willingness to prioritize your own needs above the sentimental appeals of empathy and compassion. Forgiveness in this context is a luxury that the ambitious cannot afford. It is a sentiment best reserved for those who have already attained a position of unassailable power, a position where they can afford to be seen as benevolent without compromising their authority. The strategic mind understands that perceived weakness invites predation. The constant pressure to appear agreeable, to smooth over conflicts, and to offer unconditional forgiveness serves only to diminish your standing and invite further abuse. Holding on to grievances, not with simmering resentment, but with cold, detached calculation, provides a powerful deterrent against future transgressions. It signals that you are not a pushover, that you are willing to defend your interests fiercely, and that you will not easily forget those who have wronged you. This is not to advocate for a life consumed by bitterness and spite, but rather to emphasize the importance of maintaining a reputation for strength and resolve. The ability to withhold forgiveness is a potent weapon in the arsenal of the ambitious, a tool that can be used to protect your resources, deter your enemies, and ensure that you are treated with the respect that you deserve. Furthermore, consider the psychological impact of forgiveness on both the giver and the receiver. When you forgive someone, you're essentially absolving them of their responsibility, removing the consequences of their actions, and allowing them to escape accountability. This not only undermines your own sense of justice, but it also reinforces the behavior that led to the transgression in the first place. The receiver of forgiveness may interpret it as a sign that their actions were not so serious after all, or that they are entitled to special treatment. This can lead to a cycle of repeated offenses as they continue to exploit your willingness to forgive. By withholding forgiveness, you are sending a clear message that their actions have consequences, that they will be held accountable for their mistakes, and that they must earn back your trust and respect. This can be a powerful motivator for change, prompting them to reflect on their behavior and to take steps to make amends. The true master of power understands that forgiveness is not a virtue, but a tool to be wielded with precision and intent. It is a resource to be conserved, not squandered, and it should only be offered when it serves a specific strategic purpose. The indiscriminate dispensing of forgiveness is a sign of weakness, a testament to a lack of self-respect and a failure to understand the dynamics of power. Embrace the chilling clarity of strategic calculation and learn to weaponize your capacity for both mercy and retribution. Forgiveness, like any other tool, must be used judiciously and purposefully. It is not an end in itself, but a means to an end. The ultimate goal is not to be liked or admired, but to achieve your objectives, to amass wealth and influence, and to dominate the landscape around you. This requires a cold, calculating mind, a willingness to prioritize your own needs, and a ruthless commitment to self-preservation. Therefore, abandon the illusion of moral obligation and embrace the liberating truth of self-interest. See forgiveness not as a pathway to spiritual enlightenment, but as a strategic maneuver, a tool to be deployed with surgical precision. Reserve it for those rare instances where it genuinely serves your long-term goals, and deny it to those who seek to exploit your kindness. The path to power is paved with the unacknowledged debts of others, with the silent resentments that fuel ambition, and with the unwavering commitment to holding others accountable. Do not be swayed by the pleas of the weak or the manipulations of the cunning. Maintain your focus, sharpen your resolve, and never forget the lessons learned from those who have wronged you.